Solar Sailors is a fan-made Sailor Moon sequel that takes place after the last season of the 90s anime. It's mostly existing scenes from the show, is what it uses. Think of it as somewhat of an abridged series, except instead of making fun of the show, it's an original story with its own plot and even some new and interesting characters. I personally enjoyed this series, but I will be trying to review it as objectively as possible. There will be slight spoilers, but not anything of any major plot points. At least I will try. So let's start. Let's start first with the story. The story of Solar Sailors starts off where the sailor soldiers are fighting a monster. There's been a strange influx of new and former enemies in Tokyo lately, and it's overwhelming. It seems there's a strong enemy coming that's causing them to return. This enemy, whom I will leave nameless for spoilers' sake, also has a lackey, a new Sailor Scout named Sailor Iris, who is strong and keeps coming to confront the Sailor Scouts and stop them. We also see some of our old comrades, like the Sailor Starlights, and some unexpected new allies and foes make an appearance. There are also several rules stated throughout the series that have a heavy impact on the plot. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of the story. I enjoyed the unique storyline of this series. It was very different, it was very creative. I liked the implementation of the rules as it gave an interesting take on the universe. Most of the rules are basic knowledge that anyone who's ever seen Sailor Moon before should know, making it easy to follow if you don't know a lot about Sailor Moon. Others are a little more advanced, but a Sailor Moon enthusiast would understand the ones that were not made up. On to the cons. That being said, there are small parts of the story that kind of depart from continuity. There's a rule or two that don't actually match up with what really happens in the Sailor Moon universe. I'm being vague to avoid spoilers here. The continuity issues aren't super huge for the most part, but if you know a lot about Sailor Moon, you will definitely see. An example of these continuity issues is there's an interesting backstory, which I think the story was good. I think the backstory that was written, is an actually good story. However, there's a lot of things in the story that wouldn't match up with actual continuity, both the manga and the anime. There were some things that didn't exist, and they were added to the story. And another thing I didn't like, but that's not on the makers of Solar Sailors, more on the anime for making this a character flaw of Darien, is there's another dumb excuse for Darien to be a jerk. But this is anime Darien, and that's very characteristic. It's just still very annoying. So, there are a lot of ups and downs in this series. There's a few jokes, but mostly this story definitely has a more serious tone than the anime. And there's some sad parts too, and I think all of that makes this a really good story. So next we're going to be moving on to the voice acting. I like the voice actors for this series. I know a lot of people did not. I read through the comments and many people didn't like the voice acting, and that's each and every person's prerogative. That's your opinion. My opinion is that the voices themselves were good. I think they fit the characters, with the exception of Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Neptune. Those were the only two voices in the whole thing that I just really didn't like. I didn't think they fit the characters. I thought they were, but of course you have to work with what you have. Okay. However, for the first few episodes, the voice acting itself is slightly dry with little emotion. Now, the voice acting does improve over the 6 episodes as the actors begin to be comfortable with their parts and with the voice acting itself. You have to remember that this is a series where the creator of Solar Sailors, had to find people that he could. These people aren't necessarily actors, but they were willing to help, and I think that's great of them. And so, no, they're not great voice actors, but I think they did what they could, and that they could do was a good job. So, moving on to design, animation, and editing. The editing is actually very good. Everything flows very well and from one scene to the next. if you really, really pay attention and you've seen the series, you actually will notice that some of these scenes were not in episodes together. But it flows well. So anyone who hasn't seen the series would think that they did. So moving on to just the design animation. The design and animation, of course I'm talking about the creators' original characters and outfits and etc. The designs and artwork are actually done pretty well. The characters and outfits are drawn well. They are nice designs and they fit the drawing style of the show. However, many of the original designs don't fit well over the art style of the show. So because of that, the animation does tend to suffer from time to time. The animation is actually decently done, but seems slightly mismatched because of the whole art style. Now, something to realize here, this was posted back in 2013. Most of this work for the series was finished in 2010. By 2010 standards, this is really good. And the creator was still in high school. So, let's just say that. Next, we're going to talk about characters. Aside from the usual characters, there are a few original characters. First, I'm going to talk about Iris, as she is a big character in the show. Iris is a mysterious, Saturn-esque character. Her origins are unknown, but tragic. She's a character you want to know more about, but you can never get all of your answers. I really hope we get an origin story for Sailor Iris at some point in the future, as I think one of the most annoying things about her was, I'm trying to say this without spoilers, was that you knew so little about her and you never really got to find out where exactly she was coming from. Now, of course, in the end, your answer as far as why she's doing some of the things she does come to be answered, and because of that, you don't exactly worry about her motives. But you're still curious as to where she really comes from and everything that really happened to her and why she's here. Another thing, I like that Usagi's mother was actually given some personality in this series. She plays actually a decent role, which is something that didn't happen too much in the 90s anime. You know, her parents were very absent. But then she just kind of exits stage right, and that's the end of it. Moving on to music. There was a nice mixture of great music throughout this series. All our songs, most people will probably recognize from the other shows or movies that they come from. The songs used fit in place very nicely in my personal opinion, and they're all songs that I personally very much enjoy. So. And then I'll move on to a random fact. Random fact. I personally am not a fan of the new Sailor Moon look, but some people are. In closing, I think Solar Sailors deserves a 7 out of 10. And I say it's a must watch for any Sailor Moon fan. So, I would like to thank you for watching, as I greatly appreciate it. And that is a quick review on the show Solar Sailors that you can find right here on YouTube, on the YouTube channel Solar Sailors. So please go check it out. If you enjoyed this video, please help me out by leaving a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with all things Sailor Moon related, from news, explanations, and theories. If you think of a topic you'd like me to cover, leave it in the comment section below and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. And, as I always say, in the name of the moon, please. Solar Sailors is a fan-made Sailor Moon sequel that takes place after the last season of the 90s anime. It's